Report.
Everything's status quo, sir.
Very well. If anyone needs me, I'll be in my ready room.
Hello, and welcome to the Readier Room, the only and longest-running Star Trek The Next Generation rewatch podcast that is now fully embracing the Deep Space Nine lifestyle. My name is Mitchell Mills, Chief Consultant of Services of Paramount. With me is my life partner, Brandon Hobbs. Each week, we're bringing you behind-the-scenes stories of TNG and our opinions. Brandon, how are you?
Mitch, I'm okay. I was telling you off mic earlier that had a little bit of a mix-up at Wendy's today.
Yeah, it sounded tragic and frustrating.
It was so difficult. It was so difficult, Mitch. I almost broke down crying. They
Were you shaking?
got my order wrong. I was shaking. I was shaking, and I tweeted it at Wendy's, telling them how unacceptable it was that they got my order wrong, and I had to reorder all of my food.
Now, could you detail your exact order for the ensigns?
Yeah, sure. So I got a spicy chicken sandwich, which is the only really good menu item at Wendy's, besides the Frosty. But and then I also got 2 junior cheeseburgers, one to have with the spicy chicken and one for later when I get hungry at midnight.
That's a real fat guy strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me ask you a question. Do 2 junior cheeseburgers combine to form a regular cheeseburger?
I think in terms of content, yeah. Calorically, they would be 500 calories. So 2 of those.
I'm impressed
which is... Yeah?
I'm impressed that anybody eating at a Wendy's knows what a calorie is.
Well, Wendy's is a little more upscale than McDonald's, so...
Oh, you know me, I'm always a Mac guy.
The thing is, though, when you order on the app, on pretty much any app, I think, McDonald's has the calories listed right there, which is great.
That can't be good for business.
Well, like you said, I don't know if the average McDonald's customer is worrying about that.
Yeah, calories are much less a kilocal.
Yeah,
as they
a
say.
kilocal. When how many people do you think have gotten confused, like growing up in America, knowing what a calorie is, then going overseas and seeing a kilocalorie and thinking it's actually 1,000 calories?
Oh, I know there's been at least one person with that experience.
you look at something and it's like, 300 kilocalories. And they're like, what?
A bit rich for my blood.
A kilocalorie is actually the correct, I'm sure you know the correct term.
Yes.
We just shorten it. How about countries that use joules?
Like Jules Verne?
Yeah. They measure food and how much energy was expended by Jules Verne across his lifetime.
As far as standards of measurement go, I mean, it's no less arbitrary than, using the moon or whatever.
Well, yeah, it's weird though. How many countries use joules? Oceania does, right?
Yeah, Oceania is less a country and more of a continent.
Well, yeah, but it's like 2 countries. 2 countries that matter.
Oh, yeah. And let's be real, they're basically the same country, those 2.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, honestly, I can't tell the difference.
They can't either, which is why they pretend to get so hostile about it. It's to cover up their insecurities. Which is a strategy I'm well familiar with. Getting angry to cover up your insecurities.
I'm looking up what countries use joules. I might not be able to find this. I don't want to bog us down too much here,
but it's good for the geographical education part of the Readier Room.
Yeah. We do need that segment in every week.
I'm a big fan of educating the kids.
I personally use MJ here in Florida.
What is megajoules?
Millijoules?
Wow.
Is it a joule? I don't...
It could be like a
Florida?
megabyte.
What is this? Fuck it. still, it really, I don't know. It makes me feel uncomfortable when I look at a nutrition facts label and it says it's measured in joules.
Yeah, I mean, of all the things that produce a deep, unseated discomfort within me, it's certainly one of them.
So, I didn't finish my story. The food that I did get, because I ordered it on the app, the food that I did get was someone else's food with the name Brandon.
Bizarre.
But it was like Brandon B or something instead of Brandon H. So, I opened it up, and this guy, he's a psycho. He got 2 fried chicken bacon sandwiches, which it's nasty. It has like the regular like American cheese on it.
Well, just the combination of chicken and bacon.
Yeah. Well, this could work. This could work if there was ranch on it.
Okay, but there's not.
But there's not. And the bun is just like a normal bun. It's not like the special one you get with the spicy one.
Try putting it in the oven.
It's just it boggles my mind. But that's not the worst of it. He got a large Coke, not Diet Coke, not medium Diet Coke, not small Diet Coke. He got a large Coke. And even worse, he got a large Frosty. And I was trying to avoid I wanted a Frosty. I was sitting looking at the app for about 5 minutes, thinking, should I get a Frosty? But I was like, no, they're too calorically dense. It's not worth it. It's going to give me brain freeze, and I'm going to feel gross after eating it. So, of course, they give me a large Frosty. And
chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate, although vanilla is also good. And I stood there just staring at it, wondering what I should do with it. And I took a couple bites, and then I started crying, and I shoved it down the kitchen sink drain.
Smart. I mean, you didn't finish the whole thing.
No, not even close.
Right. You can still eat tomorrow. Whereas had you eaten the entire Frosty, well, that would have been
right. I would have had to fast, especially considering the camping overnight videos I do.
Exactly.
At the fast food restaurants.
Yeah. I mean, those take a lot of prep, caring for your health, while also wanting to shovel in several days worth of fast food over the course of 8 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know there are a few YouTubers that are able to do that, and they're basically the role models, really.
They're my role model.
Yeah. They have their steering wheel tray set up.
Which they always like spin in their hands to show off.
Yeah, right.
I'm into it. I'm into a lot of what's going on here.
Flash the logo.
Flash the logo.
Cheese pull.
We are big fans of this type of organization. Suffice it to say.
What do they call themselves? Food Tube?
Food Tube.
And
or,
they have,
or,
like,
or you
conventions.
food, if you will.
You that sounds almost pornographic.
Yeah. They do have conventions. You show up, you watch somebody else eat. Maybe if the mood strikes you, you eat something on the way home. Optional.
Do they all sit at those like really long table like across from each other, and they just watch each other eat like really, really grossly?
Kind of like the Great Hall setup.
Yeah, exactly. But they can't take their eyes off each other. They have to shovel food in their mouths while they watch the person across from them do the same thing.
A combination buffet human zoo.
Mm-hmm. It's like the combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell.
Right. Probably just as... how to put this? Just as enticing, just as morally acceptable as the combination Pizza Hut Taco Bell.
Right.
I got big news.
Oh yeah?
So I've been upping my tea game recently. My tea game has been upped.
You're taking more tea?
I'm taking more tea, and I'm taking care not to spill it. But with this, I'm still drinking pretty basic tea flavors. I don't want to go too hard on that. I still like Earl Grey and such, but I've started putting in this sugar and syrup that's made from rum.
What?
Yeah, so it's like a jar of a bunch of thick granulated sugar cubes, rectangular prisms,
Okay.
and it's it's in this thick syrup, and all of it is made from and tastes of rum.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I like the delivery method here.
yeah, it's good, and it's not like the alcoholic content isn't too high. You don't need an ID to buy it, but it's just tasty, and I enjoy it. And it's like I said, it's upped my tea game. Excuse me.
Now, did you buy that locally or from an import shop?
Import shop.
Okay.
They have a whole line of them
Interesting.
of different. Yeah, I think one was made from gin, maybe.
Do you know where it's from?
No, probably someplace in the Caribbean. If I had to guess, based off the type of liquor.
Never mind the whole line that you were just about to tell us about.
You know, you got to make way for what's important in life. Speaking of what's important in life, there's nothing more important than connecting with our fans and our only fans. And we do this via our weekly question of the week that we source from them and answer live on the podcast, which is called our Question of the Week segment. And we're here to do that right now. So this week's Question of the Week comes from one John V. Caravitis. Caribbean.
Caravitis.
Caravitis. Caravitis?
Caravides?
Caravides.
I don't know.
From Ukraine, who asks, "Hey Admirals, I just watched a very interesting documentary. It's called Chaos on the Bridge, and I'm wondering if you've seen it. Is that all really true? And thank you for being you, John." Okay. It's going south very quickly. Let me set the record straight on this. Once and for all, get it out there, because you know some people declined to cover their bases and who they interview when making documentaries, and that is what that is. But that documentary, from the way it's presented, is lies and slander by people who, for whatever reason, wanted to make us look bad explicitly. Us, the show, everything. I mean, the section with Denise talking about she only ate tomato slices. You know this. I have it on full authority that she was there devouring foot-long sandwiches every single day of shooting. She always said, one for me, one for my other self, and just had two.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, she was bad. She was very bad.
Yeah. And Patrick, in the documentary, said we had no food for him at all. But, I mean, it was his fault. He would come on, insist on only eating scones, start stamping his feet, shouting, give me scony, over and over, and he just wouldn't take it. And now I had what I thought were scones in a lovely spread for him, but no, that's the American scone. It's not the proper English scone.
Yeah, it's not cultured enough, I guess.
Oh, well, it's shaped differently. Oh, this one's more crumbly. Like, suck my fucking cock.
Yeah, you know, we had English muffins already for him. Remember that?
Yeah, we spread them out. We put a little UK flag on each corner of the tray, like welcome, Captain, and he doesn't give a shit.
We even put some Marmite out there.
Yeah. Now that was terrible because the Marmites ate through the wood of the table, but we still tried our best. But whatever.
Yeah, they don't tell you that about Marmites. Is they're actually pretty dangerous.
Exactly. You got to watch out. But for everybody at home, don't believe everything you see on the internet. There's plenty of people who go out and tell lies just to get views to whatever product they're shilling. And Chaos on the Bridge is one such example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, if not lies, then just convenient exaggerations. You know,
definitely.
Maybe the subject of the documentary is funded by the people making it. Maybe they're thrust into situations they normally wouldn't have been, if not for being on camera. So
maybe people just make up an interesting story to have more time on camera.
Maybe someone starts a coup just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
So,
not a fan. Now,
No.
there will be chaos on the bridge if these people don't shut their fucking mouths.
That's right. We'll show them chaos on the bridge.
Right.
Let's see what happens with Picard season 3, huh? See how they like doing it without us.
Assholes.
Speaking of which, Picard season 2 aired the
Yeah.
other day,
Yeah,
which is exciting.
I have fond memories of working on it, but I did not watch it.
Yeah. No, we'll probably sit down and maybe binge it. It's a little too fresh in our minds, I think. I mean, it's exciting to see the way things always look completely different, on the screen, than they do while you're filming it, of course. But so we are excited to see it, but we just haven't had the time yet. But we are very excited for everyone to see what we did with that season, especially with Guinan, especially that one scene where she. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, well, Guinan was always going to be the hot topic to watch, so
Mhm.
I don't think we need to tell anybody to get excited for Guinan, but at the same time, get excited for Guinan.
She's a little sexier than she ever was before. So
It's a sexier Guinan than we've yet had.
So yeah. Okay. So we are talking this week about the high ground.
Yeah, with the not the Stevie Wonder song, mind you. Now, granted, how you could make that mistake, I'm not entirely sure for several reasons. But I just want to make sure the audience is known. It's known that we're talking about the episode of TNG of that title.
Right. We don't usually review music here.
Right. Oh, but hold on. I just want to point out, if you too have a question of the week you want us to answer, send us an email at thereadier@gmail.com. We'll answer it. Probably.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
High ground.
To make sure they know how to spell it.
Oh, the Readier Room with a capital T and 2 capital R's, then the @ mark. No underbars here.
Yeah. The second capital R is at the start of the word readier.
Right.
No, the start of the word room.
Right, not the end
So
of the
it's not
word
the
readier.
end of the word readier.
Right. If you write it like
Right.
that with the final R in readier cap, it'll bounce back. It just won't work.
Well, actually, someone took that handle fairly recently. I don't know if you noticed. I suspect it's someone from the Orb.
We used to be on good terms with the Orb. I don't know what happened. What this falling out's over.
Well, you get more popular than someone, and sometimes they just can't handle it.
I always, if I'm gonna be full disclosure here, I've listening to the Orb. I've always found that podcast to be too ponderous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's pretentious, is what it is.
Right. And you gotta know when to get out of the game.
Right.
Like, they're on what, episode 20 by now? That's probably that's way too much.
It's stretching themselves thin.
Right. Which for a spherical orb is astounding.
That's
high
right,
ground.
That's right. The high ground. Okay, I'm gonna go first, I think, this week.
You seem fired up about this. You just wanted to charge right in.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot about plugging the account.
Okay.
You forget sometimes. Sometimes.
I forget sometimes.
Yeah.
All
right. So the high ground. Bad episode.
You think?
Mm-hmm. I think it proposes this. First of all, it seems like it was written to be an episode about terrorism, which is not what Star Trek usually does.
Right. Do you think that's inherently bad?
No, not necessarily. But it's none of the episodes really came from the idea of like, okay, here's a contemporary social or political issue. Let's write an episode about it. Mm-hmm. I think it's there are a lot of pitfalls that you have to deal with potentially that you won't when you write an episode, and then kind of conform maybe a contemporary message around the plot or something if it works. They propose an interesting question and then do nothing about it. They offer no real statement besides terrorism is bad, essentially.
Okay.
And that bothered me. And aside from that, I mean, the plot just wasn't, to me, very interesting. I feel like there's a lot of downtime, a lot of boring scenes. But yes, that's the general gist of what I thought. But what about you?
I think a lot of that's true. Well, it's certainly true. I think I agree with a lot of it. I mean, I don't think it's a particularly good episode, but I don't think it's all that bad either. I think that there is enough play to the this is going to sound ridiculous, to the is terrorism bad discussions that populate the episode. And I enjoyed the stuff of the Crusher's time as a hostage. Her interactions with the terrorists I thought were relatively engaging television.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't find all that much to actively dislike, even though parts of the episode just weren't very exciting or were flat at times. They never veered into offensive or outright boring, at least for long stretches of time.
I will agree with you that they didn't veer into offensive, and this isn't a bad episode to me, like, you know, the other bad episodes we've had this season where we've either fallen asleep or stopped watching halfway through.
Right.
I did sit and watch the entire episode. My attention it was kept, so it's not terribly offensive. I do agree with that.
Put that on the box.
Yeah. The thing is, though, it's just like there's no real aha moment where you're like, okay, this is why I'm watching the episode. I don't know. Like, I don't even know how to start discussion of this episode without just immediately going right through it from the beginning, because not a lot really happens, or there's no real crux, there's no climax that really stands out to me in this episode.
Yeah, I agree. I think the episode's lacking a clear thesis. It might be a good word for it, especially when it just seems to, again, hone in on, terrorism actually is bad. It's like, okay.
It's a great, yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, so why don't we just get right into it and talk through the episode.
Okay, well, it quickly becomes apparent through the episode that it's a Crusher episode.
Yes, it is. Yep. Mm-hmm.
The Enterprise crew is down on some planet, aiding with something, but there's a explosion, and Crusher is very obstinate about helping the victims of it, which is about as brute force and impetus for the plot as it was an impetus for the episode itself. Gates was very heavy-handed in making sure that there was a Crusher episode, which, you know, you can't help but judge her for. She threatened to walk, and if she didn't get her way, we didn't want to give her away, but Gene was into this. He said, because in a previous season there was Pulaski, played by Gates, of course, but it was still a different character, and back to Crusher. And Gene just he said, no new doctors, can't do it.
Right.
Give her whatever she wants. And that's how we ended up with a Crusher-centric episode. But in terms of the plot itself, they have every reason for Crusher not to be there. There's some bodies on the ground that need medical help. It's like, okay, the local doctors are on the way. Okay, we can beam them back to the Enterprise.
Right. It's a little convenient, isn't it?
Yeah, it's extremely convenient. And, whatever. It's not the first Trek episode to fall victim to plot convenience, but it's still just not very satisfying of a beginning.
Yeah, sure. It's a little. I do want to note that do they say Rudian or Rushian?
Rushian, I believe.
Rushian. It's Russian. The Rushian plaza that this opens up in is just for the audience's knowledge. That was a redressed, very heavily redressed shuttle-based set, which is pretty cool.
Really? I forgot about that.
Yeah, it looks nothing like it, does it? I really enjoy these big open, like, vestibule type sets. We got one Was it the previous episode with the escaped prisoner?
Yes.
Yeah. And it opens a similar way in that episode too. It starts with them on ground in this like big vestibule area on a planet. I always like those sets for some reason.
What about the African planet set?
That was we talked about this recently.
Yeah, it keeps coming out. I believe, by the way, and I don't have full authority on this, but I believe that set was reused on DS9.
Really? No.
Heavily redressed, but the seating, like the amphitheater seating bench, looked very, very similar to something I saw on DS9.
Oh no. Yeah, that was probably the worst set I've ever seen in my life.
Right, where it was a backlit silk screen.
Yeah, that was the worst part of it too. We got a few of those kinds of sets though. Anytime there's like a prominent sky area, it ends up looking really cheap, you know? So when they do like the swamps and the forests, you can kind of get away with that sometimes. Or like the Geordie episode where he's down on the planet.
Right.
And you know he's crawling around rock sides and caves and stuff. That's fine because it's dark but anytime you try to illuminate a set with unnatural light from what appears to be a monocolor sky, it's not very convincing to me.
I'll say it at least gives a terrible visual identity to early TNG.
Yeah, it certainly does.
You look at that and you're like, oh yes, season 1. I'm home.
Right. It reminds me of the original series a lot, which, you know, isn't a good thing given that they're pretty far apart in terms of air dates. Yeah, so Crusher and Data are eating or something, or Worf, I don't know.
Eating?
Or eating at some restaurant, and
oh, you're right. That was so
Gates
weird.
delivers such a stilted line when she calls for the waiter. Did this bother you?
It didn't register to me. Could you jog my memory?
I don't know if I could do it, but she was like, "What, waiter?" or something. I don't know. I don't.
Okay, but it wasn't natural. It was just bad delivery.
There was something unnatural about either the way she said it, or how she moved, or how the conversation flowed.
All right.
And the second she calls for the waiter, a bomb explodes.
Maybe it was the trigger word.
Maybe.
Okay, now
and
here's my theory, or my umbrage that I'm taking. While they're sitting down and casually enjoying a meal at this restaurant, the dialogue from either them or others is talking about the massive lockdowns and curfews that are going on right now, and how everybody needs to be out of the streets because of terrorist activity. But they're just at a operating open restaurant.
Right.
And nobody seems to have any alacrity going on.
Yeah, I guess that is kind of weird. I didn't pick up on that. So,
Well, together, you and I can nitpick every single line in this fucking episode.
Should I just open the script and we can go down line by line? We can do a reading of it.
Control F, Worf.
Yeah, so long story short, these terrorists end up capturing Crusher in probably one of the funniest ways ever, where she's standing there and some guy just teleports in and grabs her arm and teleports out. Well, that's no resistance.
That's a well-known Hollywood thing, and it extends to real life as well. You grab a woman's arm, she is defenseless. Nothing that she can do. You've got her.
We've used this to great effect in our personal lives.
Yes. I know that whenever, I mean, I'm not going to get too far into this, but, there's always people who want to do some non-consensual role play. Well, you grab someone's arm and, you got him. Mm-hmm. That's the key.
Yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of non-consensual role play out in the streets, in bars, at grocery stores.
You slip them a wink while it's going on. They realize it's all just a role play.
It's pretend.
Right.
I'm just goofing. So they get Troy, and then I think it cuts pretty much immediately. Okay, it must be said that everyone is telling Crusher everyone's telling Crusher not to do this. Like, Data says stop doing this. Worf says stop doing this. Picard says stop, but she's like no. And then Riker looks at Picard and he's like, "Oh, I don't want to deal with her. If you beam her up, if you beam her up, I don't want to deal with her." So they just let her keep doing it, which seems like a really bad power dynamic.
Yeah, I don't really understand the amount of tolerated insubordination that goes on within Starfleet. It seems like every other episode, if they're not insubordinate to Picard, Picard is insubordinate to some admiral, and
Sure.
It's all about the ends justifying the means, and nobody has ever faced punishment or anything.
Right. And it's particularly evident in this episode. It's very weird, and I think it goes a bridge too far. Oh, that's a good name for a Star Trek documentary.
A bridge too far.
A bridge too far.
A bridge too chaotic.
It goes a little too far in this episode. But yeah, so they get Crusher, the terrorist taker. We're back on the Enterprise. Picard and Troy with a beautiful shirt. By the way, this episode.
Yeah.
She's got her hair down and everything. She's looking like an actual, like, somewhat maybe attractive woman.
I don't know. That's Troy's blue period.
She had blue periods?
She is
Betazoid. She is Betazoid.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got Wesley in there, and Picard's like, "Oh, I assure you, she will be okay." And something bothered me about this scene where he says, "I think they're going to use her as a bargaining chip," and then Wesley looks around incredulous and says, "Bargaining chip?"
Okay.
As if he didn't know what a hostage was. Right?
Yes, that's true.
Not just me, is it?
No.
So that was stupid.
How do you feel about Picard, baby talking Wesley? Wesley's like, "Oh, I'm going on the away team," and Picard's like, "No, honey, we need you here to calibrate the sensors."
Right. Well, I don't know. I think that's par for the course. So yeah, he's never really been one to send Wesley on the away team.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a big deal.
It's not. I don't know. It didn't bother me too much, but when you put it like that, it's funny.
It's most things I say, to be honest. I'm a real jokey boy.
Yeah, you're jokey boy number one.
That's what my t-shirt says.
It's like the Cat in the Hat.
Right. The jokey boy in a t-shirt.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Okay, so much of this episode takes place in a cave set, which I wasn't too thrilled about. It's a little boring.
Yeah,
but
it is visually boring. I really hate saying that these things make sense onto the plot, because you can write whatever fucking plot you want.
Yeah, basically. They could have easily had some kind of abandoned warehouse outpost or something, anything but a cave. But whatever, it's not a big deal. It turns out that the terrorists, I guess their leader is this guy named Finn.
Yes,
played by Richard Cox.
Yes. Man of only one cock, but the name stood.
Yeah. There was a lot of debate about this until, one of us finally was able to take a peek, but
a peek behind the curtain, if you will.
If you will.
The meat curtain.
Disgusting.
So
it turns out they only want Crusher to fix some sickness that they're having, because in order to teleport, they're using some weird multi-dimensional device that gives them that like destroys their DNA like radiation poisoning.
Yeah. Which, I mean, the whole plot makes sense. Kidnap her.
Yeah,
She's
absolutely.
a doctor, but I don't know. I wish that the effects of that were more pronounced over the course of the episode. So, for example, the Finn, he teleports with that many times, and you kind of see his health degrading, but it doesn't become a plot point.
Sure.
Picard and Crusher, they use it once or twice, and they're slightly worried about the effects on their bodies, but that also never comes up.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seemed like a missed opportunity. Nothing really offensive, but
The thing that kind of bothered me is that very quickly, Crusher deduces that she can't do anything to help these people. So it feels like there's no reason for her to really be there anymore. I mean, there is, because, of course, the episode starts getting into this idea of like, okay, well, you say you haven't taken sides, the Federation, but you participate in trade with this group of people that's oppressing us, which is an interesting thought experiment.
yeah.
That goes nowhere, of course, but
I think that and the discussion on terrorism both had potential, unrealized potential.
I wish they would have kind of focused on one or the other.
Yeah, instead of having no focus.
Yeah, because they bring both of these points up and then it kind of falls flat.
Yeah, because like we said earlier, the episode doesn't have an overarching thesis, so it's just ideas thrown out into the aether that don't coalesce. Originally, the episode did have more of a thesis. It was more pro-terrorism, but Rick felt that was a little too subversive for primetime audiences. So instead we had to write like this morally gray stuff, take the scene out of Data with the bomb strapped to him in the holodeck, the whole thing.
I forgot about that. See, that was interesting. Like,
right, that the episode would have had a point at that point.
At that point, yeah, it could have been something. It's a shame. It's a shame. But what are you gonna do? We did film that, right, or did we not?
No, we did dress rehearsal for it, but the script changed at the 11th hour.
It's a shame.
Yeah, we had
had that on the Blu-ray.
We had the prop. There's probably a photo of Brent wearing it somewhere, but it's about as far as it goes.
Yeah, well, ensigns, do your best. Find it for us.
Ensigns, get it done.
One thing that I really found funny about this episode is that anytime they're on the planet, any scene with like a bunch of extras just makes them all look like they're clones of each other.
Well, this goes back to the absolutely terrible design for this race, where it's an alien race based around dyeing your hair.
Yeah, all men have black hair with a white streak, and all women have red hair with a white streak.
I think it's like a brown streak. I know it's dark.
Oh yeah, okay, sure, yeah, it's some kind of streak,
right? And they all wear the same clothes, and it's just weird.
Did you also laugh at the? I think it's like the second commercial break sting where Finn says, "I see no reason to kill you." Yeah. And then it's like, duh. It's like, you've just given me information that makes me know that she's safe.
Like, no, is Crusher gonna survive?
Right. That was they really, when they get these commercial break stings wrong, they get them really wrong.
Oh yeah,
and it's so funny.
Now it's funny watching it on like Netflix or DVD because you see the weird tone and you register it and then the episode continues, you forget about it. But if you're watching it live on television and it cuts to commercial, you have like 3 minutes of
just sitting and reflecting on it.
Yeah, like, what the hell was that?
You're right. Oh god. It's around this time that Finn describes to Crusher how they're able to teleport, of course, because she needs to know why people are sick. And then after that sting, we cut back to the Enterprise, and it's Geordi and Wesley and Data, I think. And
yeah.
So here's the sequence of events. We learn how the terrorist group is able to teleport. Cut to commercial. We come back. it's like a 5-minute long scene of these characters trying to figure out how they're able to teleport. Did you notice this?
Very economic use of screen time.
It's just couldn't they have flipped those two things somehow?
It had to
Yeah.
have been entirely based on timing, like when they needed the commercial break to be, how long each scene was. You put the Geordi Data Wesley scene first, and suddenly the commercial break is pushed back 90 seconds, and then the second act is too short. Some bullshit like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it, but for the viewer, it's terrible. It's just that's the most, I think, the most boring part of the episode, because it's like, well, we just went through this.
A structural issue, to be sure.
Yeah. So
what happens after this?
So there's a lot of kind of vague waxing poetic about, what is terrorism, what is fighting for your nation, or fighting for the survival of your people or whatever. Right. There's this line that Crusher says. Crusher says. Rusher. That sounds like Mega Man's dog. She says, "I live in an ideal culture."
Yeah.
Which seems like the exact opposite thing. The moral relativism, cultural relativism of Star Trek would kind of prompt a character to say.
It's also just a weird thing to say of your own society.
Yeah, sure. That's a good point.
It's like, Crusher, has she ever lost a patient? Yeah, okay. Is this the ideal?
Right. Sure. Yeah. I don't think we've delved into this idea enough. There's something about this line, "I live in an ideal culture," that is just, it's so off-putting. But I don't want to spend too much time on it. It's something for the list of things to write an essay about or something, I guess.
I'm waiting for a character to say, "I live in a post-scarcity society."
That's not actually post-scarcity.
Nobody likes to think it is.
Characters, because Finn invokes this. Characters always bring up, like, the human history of violence in this show.
Hated this.
Right?
Yeah.
When anytime, this is like almost 90% of the time, when someone like Riker is like, "Oh, we've evolved beyond the need for warring amongst ourselves or whatever, seeking power," and then the alien will be like, "Well, actually, the War of 1776 proves otherwise." And it's like, well, no.
Just the idea, by the way, of an alien across the galaxy reading about George Washington is
I have read many
to
of
me.
your so-called history books.
And all the important events are before the year 2000.
There doesn't seem to be anything about the Troubles in here. Yeah, I'm glad you hated that too. So, meanwhile, we do have a bit of Riker in this episode. He does not have sex with the woman, but he is working with Alexana,
The cop.
who is a Rushian tasked with, she's been relocated to this particular city on Rusia in order to deal with the terrorists, and she's really come to just despise them after seeing them blow up a bus full of school children.
Seeing a child blow up a bus full of children.
Yes, yeah, right. Which the terrorists claimed was supposed to be a police vehicle or something, or a military vehicle.
You see, they're not bad guys. They just wanted to blow up the police.
They just made a mistake. It's just a simple mistake. Just blowing up a bunch of kids. So yeah, there's a little bit of sleuthing going on, some light sleuthing. We see a shot of a surveillance room, and I don't think I even need to touch upon why this was weird.
Yeah.
The shot of New York City.
Yeah.
You can literally see the World Trade Center, which for an episode about terrorism is a little too on the nose, even if it is, like 10 years before it happened.
It really should have been edited out of the Netflix, the DVD.
It should have been. It should have just been a blank screen. Now, I'm not sure if there were other American cities in there. I'm sure there were, but I was too distracted by New York City apparently being on Rishia.
It could be a replica. I mean, they're already very familiar with Earth history. Why not?
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. It's like how there's like the pyramid in Vegas or the Eiffel Tower in Japan.
Exactly. It's an homage.
Yeah. Huh.
Now, do you think that they intentionally recreated the Twin Towers? Because the Two Towers is a Lord of the Rings novel.
Yes.
Okay, I cannot get this right almost ever. It's very difficult for me.
Now that you mention it, I didn't even consider this, but yes, in the canon of this universe, the Twin Towers would have already been destroyed, which means that the Rushians would have had. This is like a historical reference.
Yeah, a period accurate New York City.
Maybe they built them out of some kind of I don't know, like as a memorial or something.
Maybe they're of this new stretchy material, so that if a Russian plane crashes into it, it just kind of absorbs it.
I mean, when you think about it, if Finn knows American history, maybe American history is just taught on Rusia.
It's interesting, kind of like how in the U.S. they teach Spanish in high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Something like that.
American history instead of Earth history is just tickling me.
Yeah, that's really funny. We are the most important country on Earth, of course.
A bunch of Russians reciting the constitutional preamble for a test.
Oh, God. And of course, they would have to learn about slavery.
Well, I don't think they teach critical race theory on Russia.
I don't think there are black people on Rusia.
No. Despite it not being an idealized society.
Jesus Christ. So, Riker and Alexana, I still don't know if I'm saying that right. They bring in the waiter from at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, they
who interacted
do.
for a second with Crusher.
I forgot that he was from the beginning of the episode. I don't pay attention.
Yeah. And he's on a list of terrorist sympathizers.
And Riker sees right through his act immediately.
Right.
They ask him one question. He's like, "Cut the crap."
Yeah. And look, here's the issue. I had. Riker effortlessly convinces Alexana to let this guy go.
Yeah, he doesn't even ask her. He just cuts her off, says to the guy, "All right, you go back to your people and tell them."
Right. Where it's like, it is not in her interest that the Federation gets Crusher back. It's in her interest to put this guy in jail or kill him or something. Like, these two interests aren't even remotely aligned. I mean, I guess the Federation trades with them, so they need that, but still, I mean, the way that Alexana thinks seems like she wouldn't have so easily capitulated to this. You know? A little unnatural scene. One note I did have, it's very rare. She refers to, she says, "I want to go back to my own country," which is very rare for an alien to say in Star Trek.
Yeah, you have the sense that most planets are one city.
Yeah.
One set.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, good for them.
Yeah, I really, really, I wish they did that more. They kind of made the distinction between different parts of a planet. Because it's the Star Wars problem too, right? You have the ice planet or the jungle planet.
Right. Everything's
the sand
one note.
planet.
What is it? Everyone's like a world of hats. There's just one hat, and that's it.
What?
You never heard this before? Referring to
No.
this thing as a world of hats?
No.
I mean, just picture it's a different world, but everybody's got a different hat on. And
Is that what they say about Star Trek?
Yeah,
That's pretty funny.
it is.
You know, it did have a world of hats.
What's that?
My grandson played it. Super Mario, the Super Mario Odyssey.
Oh yeah, that was World of Hats.
That had the world of hats in it.
Right. Now, if I have good authority here, this should be similar to World of Tanks.
Oh, I haven't heard about that one.
I've heard the name, and both start with the first two words. So
it must be related.
yeah. It's similar
That's
to
how I
how Star
consume most
Trek
of my
and
media.
Star Wars are related.
Or Lost in Space.
Right. Trek.
Babylon 5.
Firefly. What was the other one? The Firefly spin-off synthesizer, whatever.
Was that a thing, really?
Serenity.
Serenity.
Is that it?
That rings a bell. That rings a bell.
Okay. I've never seen it. I've never seen Firefly.
Wait, is there a Firefly spinoff?
Well, there's a movie with the title, I think. Or maybe the
It's not a spinoff.
maybe the show was spun off of the movie.
Oh, yep, yeah. It's the Serenity is the movie.
Okay. Which was spun off of the show.
If you want to put it that way.
Accurately?
So does this finish the story, or
I have never fucking seen it. I don't know. But they got
Firefly
Nathan
comes
Fillion.
off? Firefly comes off to me like something Reddit would really like.
Yeah, a lot of quipping. It looks like there's a lot of quips.
It's Joss Whedon, right?
I imagine.
Yeah, it's Joss Whedon.
Oh, you mean
Joss
noted
Whedon's so
sex pest?
Yeah. As if anyone had any doubt. There's no man in the world who wants to create a TV series that displays strong women or whatever that isn't just a raging sex offender / pedophile.
Yeah, 100%.
It's all a cover. But yeah. Anyway, I digress. There's a very pivotal scene that happens after this. We go back to the bridge of the Enterprise, and Data is talking to Picard about how he doesn't understand the what does he say?
Why people wouldn't do a terrorism if it's so effective.
Sure, yeah. He's wondering why Picard is trying to fight these terrorists from a morally like a moral high ground or something.
Right. Because Data's confused because of the opposition to terrorism versus its effectiveness.
Right. And we get a little bit of lore here.
We do. They mention I think the United States, maybe.
No, the independence of the Mexican state.
That was it, from Spain. Then they mention the Irish conflict, which was in 2024, a little forward thinking.
Yeah, the Irish unification of 2024.
Right, which was cool. I like that.
And so real quick, this was actually this was at the time taking advantage of our promotional stunt where Data would say your name.
Yes.
During an episode, the Irish opposition kind of as a group paid for this to happen, and we actually were able to work this in really well, which is really cool. But at the time, we got in a lot of hot water with BBC for it.
Very controversial over there.
Yeah, when we wanted to air this in the country, they required us to ADR a line of Brent saying British unification instead. And the result of this, well, it was kind of twofold. The first is that we ended up having this weird split canon in Star Trek for about 20 years, where the British Star Trek lore had O'Brien as the sole survivor, the sole surviving Irishman in the entire universe, right? And we did thankfully eventually resolve this, and we put the two timelines back together. There was a comic book. It was a limited comic book series in 2011 called Crisis of Infinite O'Briens, where I'm sure you can imagine the plot there. But
it was a pivotal issue.
It was actually probably one of the best Trek pieces of apocrypha I've ever read. So definitely pick that up if you can get it for a decent price. Nowadays, I mean, the omnibuy kind of tend to run a little high, but it's worth it.
For that issue and what it usually sells for, anything under, I don't know, $350 is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, you can read it and then sell it back probably in another couple of years for maybe a few $100 more. It's become kind of a hot item. But yeah, the other issue is that because of the payment, the money that was exchanged, the Irish were not very happy about us making that change.
Yeah, but the Irish are never happy.
No, they never will be either. It's who they are, of course.
They'll be happy when they got a nice pint in their hand.
Oh, pint.
A pint?
I like that other Star Trek episode. Don't you like girls?
Oh, that one. Up the long ladder.
Yeah.
Say its name.
And then we have the Kenzie Rebellion.
Yeah, which was another bit of alt history, which is cool.
Yeah, that was interesting to say the least.
Yeah. So we wrote a backstory for this one because it wasn't as self-evident as the other examples. But the idea was that in the United States, every single person named Mackenzie came together to riot because the official shortening of their name was changing from Mac to Kenzie. And they didn't like that. They rioted, let the world know, and, had their terrorism and accomplish their goal. It was a cool little bit of world building, I believe.
Yeah, I really inspired, actually.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's kind of... this is an example, I think, of what makes Trek. It's different. I do think there was a book written on this, too, the Kenzie Rebellion.
Wouldn't surprise me. It's a rife source for various apocrypha.
Yeah. Unconfirmed as of yet, but if you want to Google that, check it out, Ensigns.
The Kenzie Rebellion.
So down back on the planet, Finn is so here's what happens. The guy that Riker let go, in order to deliver the message that the Federation is willing to negotiate for the release of their prisoner, the guy tells Finn that the Federation is working with the Lucians. Yeah,
that was kind of funny to me.
And never anywhere is it addressed that Riker really fucked that one up. But it's also kind of stupid on the terrorist part because that's what they have the hostage for, to negotiate with the Federation. So why try to mess that up when you're trying to get a seat at the table?
Well, I don't think they're trying to negotiate so much as get the Federation to apply pressure on their own.
Yeah, I suppose so, but that could easily be done through like an avenue of negotiation, or I mean, just as easily.
Sure,
or lack thereof.
Sure, I'm just saying it doesn't readily conflict with the plan that Finn outlines in the episode.
I just think it overly complicates things.
For sure.
I could be stupid. I don't know. But then Finn gets all angry, and he's like, there's some line where he says, "Oh, is your son aboard the Enterprise?" And he's like, "I'm sorry, I'm gonna blow it up." Which kind of comes out of left field, don't you think?
I guess.
It's a little, I don't know, a little silly.
It is silly, but for a terrorist, it's like whatever.
That's what terrorists do. They blow stuff up. But Crusher starts like crying or whatever, which seems to me, I don't know, a little bit out of character. A little bit.
She's a woman.
Maybe. She's a woman. And she tells Finn, here's an interesting line. This has a lot of baggage to it. She says, "I will do anything you ask."
Yes. That really set minds ablaze.
Yeah. We had Melinda and Gabrielle, the writer and the director, respectively, for those who aren't up on their Trek staff. They clashed really heavily on their ideas of what the implications of this line were. Melinda argued heavily for a scene where Finn forces Crusher to give him a Blumpkin. And Gabrielle thought he was more of a bobsledding kind of guy. And in the end, they couldn't compromise on their respective visions, and we kind of left this thread dangling. Dangling really low. And it's just, it's another one of those things that kind of gets lost, and it's a shame. We could have had an interesting scene there.
Well, that's what's nice about Apocrypha, is we can expand on these things.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And I've seen this expanded upon in many different ways.
Oh, you've seen an expansion?
Yeah, I'm very into the expansion here.
Interesting.
Yes. Well,
the aforementioned... oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, fair, yeah, go ahead.
And this is the rest of the podcast. I'm just going to do this for the next 20 minutes. Yeah, so the aforementioned plot to blow up the Enterprise starts taking place, right?
Yeah, and it's mildly exciting, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a better action scene than last episode, isn't it?
Oh, hell yeah. People are getting shot. A guy in a red shirt gets shot. How's that for some Star Trek?
Yeah, there's a lot of killing in this episode.
Which is... It ties into the terrorist stuff, I guess. It's a lot.
I guess it does. Yeah, you're right.
It's a lot easier to talk about these. Rather, not easier, but it's more pertinent to talk about these themes when there's consequences. Granted, none of the principal characters die, but still, it's believable.
Oh wait. Yeah. I'm sorry. We totally forgot to mention that scene where Finn teleports aboard in front of Troy.
No, I think that's after, isn't it?
It couldn't be. Why would they try to negotiate with the Enterprise after they tried to blow them up?
Because why would they try to blow them up after asking to negotiate?
I don't know. Maybe it had been 12 hours because he gives them 12 hours and they don't because them beaming aboard allows Wesley to pinpoint the location of their device.
Oh, you're
and that's
right.
when they go invade. So yeah, it's before he gives them this ultimatum where it's like, okay, you start putting pressure on Rusia, blockade them with Federation ships. And you have 12 hours to decide. I think it was just unclear that the 12 hours had passed.
Okay. I buy this.
Which I guess starts to make more sense now why he would say he's going to blow up the Enterprise. Because he had already given them the ultimatum.
But in any case, the scene's kind of awkward. It's just an excuse for Troy to be there doing something.
Yeah, it is. It's a weird scene. She just stands there silently. It's so weird.
I couldn't shake the idea that Troy was not going to remember the information that she had to communicate.
She just didn't tell anyone that happened.
Right. Or she's like, they want us to trade with the planet? I think.
She was too busy trying to get it in somewhere.
If she's trying to get it in?
Yeah.
Get it in her, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Is that the right way to use that phrase?
I'm sure. I thought it was sex neutral.
No, I would assume that men try to get it in.
Yeah, but women also try to get it in themselves.
It seems like a perversion of the phrase.
I need to know this.
Can women use the phrase "get it in"? Are they allowed legally?
What does it feel like for a woman to have a penis inside her?
Is that where you've landed?
Well, that's the second link that comes up.
Feels like springtime, son.
It feels like salty milk and coins.
Bag of sand.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not. We're not spending time on this. Who cares? Yeah. So we get these guys teleporting pretty much across the Enterprise. There's one that teleports into a corridor, shoots a guy, and this woman just runs away screaming. Just kind of funny.
Typical behavior.
Yeah. We have one teleport to the Scaffolding of Engineering, which is where a lot of action seems to take place.
It's a dramatic location.
It is. Like someone has the high ground. Ooh. Someone always has the high ground because, if they're there, you have to climb up the ladder. The long ladder, or take the very slow elevator.
Right.
Which could result in you wiping out and breaking a bone or something.
I think that was a season 4 episode. The very slow elevator.
No, that was a children's book.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so Geordi's in engineering, and he has to contend with, I think, a couple guys who teleport in there as one. There's a scene where he like dodges out of the way of like a laser bolt or something.
Rifle fire, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it might be interesting for people who haven't really seen the production side of things to go over this, because this scene looks like it's comprised of 2 cuts, but it's actually 3. There's the shot of LeVar jumping. There's a second shot where we replace him in midair with the stunt double, who, by the way, in this episode was white, but that's another story. And the final third shot is LeVar falling on the ground. But those first 2 shots, they look like they're like seamless. And I'm not an editor by any stretch of the imagination, but I just thought that's an interesting tidbit.
It is editing magic.
Yeah,
that you don't often pay attention to, especially as a casual viewer. It's easy for that to get lost, but just some insight into how your favorite productions are made.
Yeah.
I mean, not your favorite, but their favorite.
But yeah, someone's favorite somewhere.
Yeah.
So one of them plants a bomb on the engine, right?
Yes, and it's just very obvious and very generous timer.
Yeah, they could have easily just dropped a bomb that would explode in 5 seconds and then teleport right off the ship, but they didn't. Thankfully.
Yeah, they gave him the full 20 minutes to disarm it.
Yeah, and Geordi manages to get the bomb off. I thought it was a nice scene where he throws the bomb on the floor and he's like, okay,
lock on the my signal.
Yeah, lock onto, and then he jumps out of the way. That was kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's again a nice little action scene which continues onto the bridge.
Yes, it does.
They beam in the bridge and there's a confrontation. Picard, Dex, Finn, they go to the ground. There's some other people exchanging fire. I think Worf gets hit.
Yeah, Worf gets hit.
It's neat.
It's nice that Patrick finally got his action scene.
I just want to see this old bald man kick ass.
Yeah. Little did we know he would grow older and bolder.
Well, only one of those was thought to be possible.
And yet we now have to see him in more action scenes than we ever did in this show.
I just
he hobbles around.
As alarming as it is for Patrick to be in action scenes, like moving around in his advanced age, just the normal dialogue he speaks and the strain of his voice and how difficult it is for him to produce vocalizations is way more disconcerting for me to see as a viewer.
You're right. His voice is always shaking like this. If you fancy the Jonas Brothers, cover your belly. It is really depressing. It's just you're watching a man deteriorate in front of your eyes.
But he shouldn't need the money, is the thing.
No, it's entirely like a vanity thing.
Right.
He always wanted Picard to be an action star, so now he's like, well, I'll do Picard, the new Picard show if I get to run around and shoot things.
Which it's just a 80, 70-year-old man playing pretend.
Right, it's pathetic.
And people love it.
I know.
Oh, Picard's so cool. Badass. He's just a badass.
It's funny because, like, I mean, most of the other characters, the returning characters, like, believable to a degree. You know, that 7 of 9 still looks okay.
That's Voyager, right?
It's Voyager.
Okay. One day I'll get there.
Yeah, one day.
I heard that the setup for Voyager borrows heavily from points that Deep Space Nine put down.
I will say it looks a little flat though, so you may not like it.
I don't really get this. Do you just not care at all about how things look?
We're not getting into this right now.
We will if we have to.
No, we're not. We're not doing this right now. We have an episode to finish. We've been going for a while.
Fine. Join us next time for our no holds barred DS9 discussion.
Maybe we'll do that. I don't know. Okay, so
you can't do that. That's a barred hold.
They capture Picard because Finn teleports with Picard. Finn teleports while hugging Picard, basically. And they capture him and bind him up in the cave. And I
think their plan's to kill him.
Their plan is to kill him. And Crusher says, "No, don't kill him."
Yeah, don't kill him.
Yeah, don't kill him. And this is structured, I think, very poorly. But there's this whole question of like how trusting the relationship is between Crusher and Finn, and it's like, can she navigate Picard's hatred of this guy and this guy trying to kill Picard, and you know, is she going to be able to get the two of them out safely while also respecting Finn's cause or whatever, which she clearly has some interest in.
They make some implications of Stockholm Syndrome going on.
Yeah, they do. But they kind of hand wave it away, you know, like it's like, oh no, that's not it.
Yeah, Picard says, "Oh, I shouldn't have to tell you about Stockholm Syndrome." And Crusher's like, "I know, silly."
Yeah. Which just it feels submissive.
Yeah.
Dismissive.
Okay.
It feels
I was like,
submissive.
knowing you, I'm like, all right, I guess that's where he's going with this. I'll just play along.
It feels dismissive, but yeah. So yeah, there's that scene where she like starts getting mad at him or whatever, and she walks away, and then he walks up to her, hands her his notepad, and then he himself walks away, and then she slowly turns it over, and it's just pictures of her face.
Right.
Drew.
And it was a number of things, like pictures of two hands holding each other, her face, her eyes. We had commissioned another one, which was Crusher and Picard having sex.
Right.
But yeah, it wasn't finished in time, so instead we just had these. But yeah, apparently you draw somebody, it means you're a good guy.
I guess so. And that's the thing. It's like, okay, he kidnapped her, tried to kill her son, kept her there against her will, even after there was no reason for her to be there. Has probably killed tons of people, and now he's drawing her like a stalker.
And she's into it.
Right. Well, you know, it's typical women. But there's nothing there that's like, obviously this was supposed to be a moment where it's like we recognize his humanity or something. But no, he's just a creep. He's just a fucking creep.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that a creepy behavior was portrayed as romantic in some production.
Right. You're right. Especially in Star Trek.
Yes.
Oh god, it's so bad. So the Enterprise crew and some of the what's this planet called?
Rushian.
So yeah, some of the Rushians, a total of like 6 people,
storm this terrorist organization.
Yeah. Very effectively, I might add. None of these terrorists are able to locate their guns to resist.
They're caught completely unawares.
Mm-hmm. And this is all thanks to Wesley, by the way.
Thank God he wasn't on the away team.
Yeah. So he was able to pinpoint the location. And I would say the ultimate scene here, the real climax, is Finn running into Crusher and Picard's quote cell.
Love nest.
Yeah. And he's like all incredulous, and he's about to shoot Crusher, and then Alexana shoots him, and then Riker looks at her and says, "You didn't have to kill him."
Which is wrong, kinda.
Patently untrue. Wow, I can't talk today. Unfalse, patently untrue.
Yeah.
He was literally about to kill Crusher.
Nobody cares.
Riker didn't care. You didn't have to kill him. Yeah, okay. And then she's held up by the we didn't talk about the child, played by Christopher what's his last name?
Reeves?
I don't know. Not Christopher Reeves. Although this child is similarly dead. Died from a drug overdose at 24.
Good for him.
The more you know. So yeah, she's then, I think she is held at gunpoint by the kid, right?
Mm.
And then
they convince him to put it down, and the cycle of violence is over.
Yeah, Crusher says, "No more killing."
And the kid says, "Oh, okay."
And then, he puts it down, and then he's taken off to the processing center where he'll probably get killed.
No, more killing.
But yeah, they do make this stupid trite cycle of violence point, and it's dumb, and I hate it.
And then the episode ends.
The episode ends. Yeah.
Mercifully. It wasn't that bad, but still. It's like, yeah, it is pretty... if there was ever an episode that was like a 5, the exact medium point of this show quality, I would probably say this one.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. It's watchable, but it's not something I want to watch again.
Right.
For a very long time, or possibly ever. Although I'm sure I will one day. This gets 2.5 saucer sips.
Out of 5?
Out of 5.
I buy that.
So I guess I need to have a question for you now.
Yeah. You need to. You need to.
I need to. Okay. So, I don't know if you remember, probably not. This is kind of a weird thing to remember, but there's a fixture of the bridge that in this episode becomes solidified for the rest of the series.
Of the bridge.
Of the bridge. Like, the environment.
Okay. What is it? Is that the question?
What is it?
Okay. Is it the little side seat that Crusher sits on at the end of the episode?
No, actually, that was added quite a while ago.
Damn.
Although there was some inconsistency because we had like at least one episode that was filmed before that was put in, but aired after it was put in the show canonically.
Okay.
So it would just randomly disappear.
But it's not that. That's not the answer.
It's not that, no.
Trying to think of what parts were featured at the bridge. Finn shoots the consoles, but I think those were already the same.
Yeah, those were there.
Yeah. It's not the plaque. The plaque's been there, and it wasn't really featured here.
Think a little more generally.
Okay.
Pretty big.
Does that have to do with the horseshoe? Like the
horseshoe.
The rising platform behind the captain's...
Oh, no. No, it's not the horseshoe.
Is it the lighting? The ceiling?
It's not the lighting.
Alright, I give up.
Okay. It is actually the color of the carpet. It is changed to a darker blue, and it remains that way for the rest of the series after there have been probably 3 or 4 carpet changes up to now.
Well, we're upholstery fiends.
Yeah. We finally got it looking exactly how we imagined it.
In Gene's vision of the future with dark blue carpets.
Dark blue carpets, yeah.
Well,
But now you know. Now you can bring that up at parties.
Very benign trivia question. And I'm always at parties with you. I know you bring it up all the time. I just closed my ears in case this is a trivia question in the future.
You're so dedicated to the show.
You know me. It's the only thing I have to live for.
Right, yeah, well, same.
Well, not only that...
We won't be living very much longer anyway.
Especially after my next anecdote. Usually this is where I recap the sponsors of the Readier Room. I want to point out that I've recently visited a Denny's. And it's changed a lot since I've last been there. There were no breakfast items. Instead, it was just a bunch of ramen and parfaits and Japanese fried chicken.
How did this happen? Since when did Denny's become a Japanese restaurant?
It's very, very strange, but I went in there and I just to connect with the ensigns, the experience they'll be having, and I was pleasantly surprised. All the food was edible, and I went in, I sat down at the table, I got my receipt when I was leaving, I went up to the counter, and I kind of leaned on the counter, gave him a wink, and said, "Readier this," and got my 15% off. It was great.
Oh wow. Wow, yeah, we got a big reach, I gotta say.
We do.
You're doing a good job.
Global, if you will.
Yeah, born global.
Born global, born mobile. This will be the end of this episode of the Readier Room. As I mentioned, this podcast is sponsored by Denny's, home of the Grand Slam, and also a pretty satisfying Tauntaun Men, if you're of that persuasion. Readier Room is also brought to you by Pep Boys, home of the 3-minute oil change. And they get it done there at the Pep Boys. You can drop the Readier slogan at any of these establishments for a 15% discount. Join us next week. We're going to tackle another episode of The Next Generation, thus making it the next generation. And until then, I implore everybody listening to please stay readier.
The troublesome little man-child.
I stand before you defrocked, condemned to be a member of this lowest of species.
Thank you, Ensign. Engage.
Do you consider yourself superior to us?
Should have told him to mind his own damn business.
But I stroked the beard thusly. Do I not appear more intellectual?
Computer, freeze program.
Have you never dreamed of climbing inside the bottle?